Hi again, this is Kay from Breaking the Spells. I want to talk to you about all the cool things you may not know or may not have tried regarding grapes and grapevines. You know, most people have just tried grapes by going to the grocery store and buying either the conventional or the organic grapes and, just pulling them out of the bag, maybe washing them, I hope, and just munching them, and you don't know where they grew, and that's all you got out of them was what you have right there. There's a whole world of things that are really cool about grapevines, which I'm going to show you. And I want to show you one of my grapevines where it just provides all kinds of purposes. One is it creates more privacy around the pool because we grew it on a decorative fence around the pool, and it's beautiful. It's for aesthetics. Those are a couple of things you may not have thought about. But since we grow concord grapes, the authentic heirloom concord grapes that actually have the seeds in them that some people think are inconvenient. Well, anyway, since they're concord grapes, their leaves, we think, taste the very best. Yes, taste the very best. Their leaves. As far as I can remember, throughout my history and in my childhood, I remember eating wrapped grape leaves from a neighbor that we knew that used to wrap them and put all kinds of stuff in them, but somewhat their own traditional food. Well, anyway, grape leaves that are from a concord grapevine are very tender, and to a lot of people's surprise, they're very, very lemony tasting. I think they're my second favorite vegetable as far as flavor goes. Well, you don't just pick them off the vine and just eat them. They're kind of tough all by themselves, but I wash them, and I'm going to show you pictures of this, and they're pictures of how they grow and how I process them, and even after they're wrapped with food in them. I just kind of lay them down kind of like opposite each other, and then a couple sideways, and kind of what looks like a taco shell, and then put food across it and roll it up slightly, and then wrap it kind of like a little bambino or a little baby diaper. You roll it up, fold the ends in, and then roll it some more. I'm trying to think of something else that this reminds me of, but it would be kind of like a burrito wrapping, but instead with grape leaves. And you can wrap them with anything. The picture I'm going to show you in a little bit was where we took avocado and seeds and olive oil and lemon and spices and just mashed them all together. And did I say lemon? Yes, lemon juice included. And you mash it all together and put it in a bowl, and then you just slop a little down each time you create this open wrap, and then roll them up. You can set them aside for days. They keep really well in the refrigerator. We've wrapped all kinds of things, anything imaginable that is, in little chunks with something a little saucy or sticky in between. If you have nothing else, take yesterday's leftovers, and then just add a little olive oil alone. That would be enough to moisturize it, and roll the grape leaves in it. And then basically the benefit you get out of them are they're a green vegetable. They're full of antioxidants and so forth and all that. I'm not super big into antioxidants, but I like the balance of green foods that are both blood building, which means oxidizing, and antioxidant, where you keep your cells fresh. That's another subject. But the grape leaves help your guts in a phenomenal way. They're very, very, very cleansing. They're a great bulking agent. When they pass through, they just kind of softly, like a washcloth, scrape the walls of your guts and push garbage through. And when it comes out, frankly, it's really a nice texture. Because when it comes out, it's wide because it's cleansed and it just slides out. It's an awesome health benefit. The very grape leaves that you might not ever even come in contact with. So the grapevine I'm going to show you is really only a few years old. It began producing in its second year, and we harvest the leaves several times. Thank you, Angelo. We harvest the leaves several times a year. Several times a season, and pretty much maybe every week or two from about May through at least July or August, depending on the maturity of the vine and the weather and so forth. So that's one aspect that people may have never thought of. And also, the grapes can be used right away. Of course, we wash both the grapes and the grape leaves with the same water that contains a little bit of grapefruit seed extract as a cleanser and disinfector. Everything just kind of slides off of it, and the germs die if there were any on the surface. And grapefruit seed extract is also a preservative, so when you store your grape leaves until further use, until you wrap more, they stay a lot fresher. Of course, we rinse them after we've soaked them in water with grapefruit seed extract. About a quarter tablespoon of grapefruit seed extract per gallon or two of water that we soak them in for about 20 minutes first, no longer. We might get them a little bit too soggy, a little too soft. And then we just rinse them off and strain them in a strainer. I have pictures to show you following this that help clarify all of that. And then in the end, there are going to be a lot of grapes that you just can't eat right away. And you can either choose to give all your hopefully organic labor of love grapes away to your friends and neighbors. We give them a few, they get a few, but here and there if they're very special people. But from one grapevine, it's about a few years old, we can store in Ziplocs in a freezer. It would take up about one freezer. We have two freezers that are 7 cubic feet, and it will fill about half of one of those freezers, so that throughout the rest of the year when they're not in season, we can I would say make smoothies with them about twice a week, so that it provides that wonderful flavor and all those nutrients that are as fresh as they could be when they're out of season, which is you take the frozen grapes, the frozen whole grapes that have been sitting there until you're ready to use them, and you just throw them in the blender with whatever smoothie, any concoction that you put fruit in, with whatever smoothie that comes to mind. And in 1 second here, I'm going to show you a bag of grapes that were left over from last year, and I still have about 3 of them. And within about maybe a few weeks, we're going to be harvesting our next crop. Here we go. Check this out. This is a little bit of what's left over from last year's Concord grape crops. They're organic, they're frozen, they kept well all year, and we get to use these in smoothies until the next crop comes up without even having a gap between them. It's really cool to grow your own grapes. My hands are so cold from holding those grapes. One thing I didn't say was that when we trim the grapes, which we have to do because of them sprawling in places where we don't necessarily want them to go, and we can kind of design where they go, what they wrap around. When you trim the grapes, of course, when you cut the vines, that's where that excess that would have been otherwise waste, that's where it gets to turn into food for you, a really cool food in a wrap to put other food in, and like I said, possibly leftovers. Here is one of my glorious grapevines to the left of the pool, where they're suspended along a decorative fence. Just wanted you to see it from a distance and how beautiful it is. We call this poor man's paradise. This is the view up a little closer, where you can see some grapes, some old growth where they're darker green leaves, and some new growth, of course, where they're that brighter yellow green. This is a little bit of a close-up of some, where you can see at the top where the new growth has really shown itself to go above and beyond the darker green leaves. Here's a close-up, even more of a close-up. It is honing in on some brand new little green leaves that are too small yet to use as food, but in about a week or so, believe it or not, they will be just as big as those dark green leaves, and they will be the ones that we can use for wraps. This is some in a different spot that are getting close to the size that we would use to wash off and use as wraps. You can see that there are grapes behind it in this vine. I'm going to point here with the mouse. This vine right here is really unnecessary to grow grapes, and it is just prime for real soon for cutting and then snipping off the grape leaves. Here's just one more shot from a different angle, right where my hand is down below here, where you can see that I'm kind of lifting it up, suspending it. These again were similar to what I said in the last shot, where they're real close to being able to be cut off, and you can see that they're past where the grapes are growing, and their excess grapevines really need to be trimmed. I've tried to keep at least about 6 inches past the grapes themselves. If you can see, like right around here toward the upper left, I will not cut those grape leaves, the vines and the leaves, because they're there to shade them a bit, to keep them from being, turning into raisins from the sun, and also to kind of disguise them a little from the birds, so the birds will only peck and steal so many. This one here grew way up and over the rest of them, and they're small to medium sized, and in approximately 1 week I will be trimming them and making really good use of them. Here is where I've already washed them and set them standing up. Preferably standing up is a really good idea because they can drain well. I'm going to back up a hair. I've washed them in grapefruit seed extract. This whole batch that I picked, these are very, very well packed together. There's quite a bit here, which it took about 2 gallons of water to soak them in with grapefruit seed extract. Not to be confused with grape seed, it's grapefruit seed extract. In about 2 gallons of water, I put about a 1/4 teaspoon of grapefruit seed extract for the sake of washing and disinfecting, and like I said earlier, a bit of preserving. So what I would do with this is I would either set plastic wrap over the top, or a plate that fits over fairly well, that kind of matches the size of the top of the strainer. And while they're still fairly wet, after having just set them in there, I will put them in the refrigerator just like that and let them finish draining that way. There's just enough airflow that they can drain, but not so much that they dry out. And that takes about 12 to 24 hours. And then once they're relatively drained, they go in a glass bowl like this. You can actually, if you look a little closely, you can see the rim around the edge. You're in a really good size glass bowl. This bowl is probably at least a half gallon. This is when I lay them horizontally, so then I can grab a bunch every so often and turn them into wraps. And I would take out normally maybe there's probably a good 50 of them in this bowl. I would take about 10 or so out and make a serving for both Carlos and me to become a meal. Here is where I've actually rolled food up inside of them. Just like I said earlier, just about anything can be wrapped up inside of them. Something, if there's something dry, you have some protein that's in a dry form, like seeds or chicken or whatever, or any kind of ground cooked meat, anything you can imagine. You just put them with a little olive oil or something moist. It helps them wrap, and also will soften the grape leaves some, because they're pretty tough, and they're supposed to be pretty tough even when they're kind of a newer growth. That's just how they are, and they're really, really chewy. So one might think, oh, how come they're not tender like butter lettuce or romaine lettuce? It's just the way grape leaves are. But there's a benefit that comes from that, because you can only chew them up so much. But if they were all tender, they wouldn't be able to hold your food like that. And I mentioned earlier that it's fantastic cleansing for your guts, because it's a bulking agent that goes through and scrubs them. Plus, it's just delightful to eat them. I believe this batch had avocado, lemon juice, olive oil, and spices, and sunflower seeds. So you vegans out there can do the same thing. There's all kinds of vegan food. You don't have to put meat in them. There's just anything you can imagine where you can add the moisture of olive oil or some nice oil to them, will work. It's just awesome. And I'm going to return one more time to their home, which is, this is just one of my grapevines that provides some scenery, privacy, and a barrier to the fence, so it can keep animals and children out. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it gives you some ideas. And I do want to acknowledge that a lot of people grow their vines upward on more or less a grape trellis. I grew up with a grapevine like that, where they kind of came up the poles, and then you can create wires or poles across the top to grow them on. I did it very unconventionally because I have this beautiful decorative wrought iron type fence around my pool, which helps keep the dogs at a safer distance from that when they're not at the point when they're not supposed to go in there. And I just happened to grow mine that way, which worked really well. Again, you direct their vines where you want them to go, and it's a real symbiotic relationship. You just cut them where you don't want them to grow, and then you just snip off the leaves, and there you go.